Good evening, everyone. Let's try this again. Good evening, everyone. That's a lot better. Thank you so much for that introduction, Dr. Brian. And thank you so much to everyone attending tonight to join us in plugging into DEI. By congratulating these amazing award recipients for all of their hard work and in the name of DEI. The Legacy Celebration Banquet is an important component to our Diversity Forum right here at Columbus State University. The Diversity Forum has been an integral part for a number of years, and I am excited for the chance to be a part of it here while serving as your 2023 Miss Columbus State University. During the Legacy Celebration, we take the time to honor the various students, faculty, staff, community members, and organizations around campus that make a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and to make Columbus State a campus where every student, faculty, staff, member feel welcome and included as part of the Cougar community. The word inclusion starts with the letter I, and tonight we get to see some true champions get highlighted. Rolo Lopez, a senior business major, will help Dr. Brian and I recognize these outstanding individuals. With all of that being said, I will start the night off with our first set of awardees. Jerry Pops Barnes is a formidable alumni of CSU. He demonstrates his devotion to CSU by serving on the Alumni Association Board and also serving on the Student to Alumni Engagement Committee. He advocates for CSU within the community by serving as District 1 City Councilman. He also operates CCGTV, where he has participated in and advertises events. One notable characteristic about Pops is that his resilience and mental fortitude doesn't allow life or health ailments to deter him from being a servant to CSU. Pops has demonstrated what it means to be a graduate of this illustrious university. We would like to take a minute to recognize you, Pops, for being a charismatic professional by awarding you our Alumni Award. Thank you for everything that you do. Thank you. And congratulations again on receiving our Alumni Award. The next award presented tonight is the Civic Engagement Award. The award recipient is an amazing team located right here in Columbus, better known as the United Way of Chattahoochee Valley. United Way strives to be a model of diversity and inclusion. Their work exemplifies the belief that it takes a diverse group of partners to find solutions to complex issues. The UW of the CV is intentional about its board, staff, and volunteers, reflecting the many faces, cultures, and walks of life that make up the Columbus, Georgia community. Their selfless service to the community and strong advocacy for diversity has set the bar for other organizations to follow. And for this reason, we are awarding United Way of Chattahoochee Valley the Civic Engagement Award. Congratulations again. When thinking about the Community Outreach Award, our next recipient embodies all that it means to be a servant leader. Spencer White is someone who is selfless and takes others' opinions into consideration before his own. He traveled to Guatemala for a spring break service learning program in 2022. While in Guatemala, he led his peers to teaching English to children in the village. Following Guatemala, Spencer took an internship with Columbus Habitat for Humanity and worked on a project to build 3 houses. The director of Columbus Habitat for Humanity has stated, Spencer has offered his skills and has stepped up in a professional manner to be a great team member. Not only has he helped and offered his knowledge, he has gone into the community as well to represent us. He also volunteers to teach English to Schwab International Music students. Spencer goes above and beyond for people, and for this reason, we want to commend him for his selfless service. Thank you. Congratulations again, Spencer.
Hello. Hello. Our next Legacy Award recipient is Amelia McInnes. Amelia has dedicated her life to the church and even volunteers during her free time. Last summer, Amelia served as a camp counselor, and she flew to Italy to help children learn about faith. In the spirit of making everyone feel welcome and creating a sense of belonging here at CSU, Amelia supports international students through her church and shows support to them so they feel a sense of community. She spreads positivity and love and makes sure she is respectful of others no matter who they are or where they come from. She has learned to embrace and value differences in people. Through her time at CSU, Amelia has grown into someone who loves and helps no matter who the person is, and is overall an amazing example of what this award represents. Congratulations to Amelia McInnes on receiving the 2023 Faith-Based and Humanitarian Award. Stephanie serves as the president of Chispa. She is a psychology major and double minoring in criminal justice and Spanish. Stephanie is also part of the Office of Admissions team as a brand ambassador. She is always willing to help students around campus and is bilingual, with Spanish being her first language. She is currently helping a Latino fraternity get established here at Columbus State University. After graduation, Stephanie plans to become a clinical therapist and hopes to give free therapy sessions to adults and children who are undocumented in the United States, and also help her Latino community focus on having better mental health. Again, congratulations to Stephanie Ramirez Bocanegra on receiving the Goizueta Foundation Scholarship Award. Felicidades. Felicidades. The John Townsend Achievement Award is presented to undergraduate male and female students of African American descent who hold the highest GPA at Columbus State University. Our first award recipient is Kayla Rogers. Kayla is originally from Columbus, Georgia. She is a nursing major here at Columbus State University with the goal of becoming a pediatric or NICU nurse. Most of her involvement at Columbus State University stems from her participation in the nursing program. She has been a part of events such as the Miracle Riders Welcome Back concert and Discovery Day. Whenever she is not studying for nursing tests, she enjoys reading, dancing, and spending quality time with her friends, family, and dog. Congratulations to Kayla on this amazing accomplishment. Our second recipient of this award is Darius Jenkins. Darius is originally from Lawton, Oklahoma. He arrived in Columbus by way of the military. He is an active duty Army soldier and is a member of the Columbus State ROTC program. He is currently an interdisciplinary studies major with a focus in health sciences leadership and community engagement. His ultimate goal is to get accepted to and attend medical school. His involvement at CSU includes participation in ROTC, multiple community service commitments, tutoring, and intramural sports. His hobbies involve playing and watching sports, traveling, and spending time with his family. We know being an adult learner, juggling ROTC and academics is always a challenge, but through his hard work and determination, it was possible. Congratulations to Darius on being our 2023 John Townsend Achievement Award recipient. Each year, the Center for Global Engagement awards this honor to a graduating international student based on demonstrated extracurricular involvement and academic leadership. This year's Kiongozi Award goes to Silvia Beltran. Silvia Beltran was born and raised in Venezuela. She subsequently relocated to South Korea with her uncle, where she attended an American high school and gained extensive knowledge of both Korean and American cultures. Her aunt suggested Columbus State University when she was considering her choice of college. A fundamental part of her experience at CSU has been being an international student, which gave her the opportunity to make friends, learn and gain leadership skills, learn about diversity, and feel more comfortable with who she is and where she comes from. Silvia worked for residence life for 3 years, preparing for her graduation and professional life. She has traveled the world and feels that Columbus State University is a place she calls home. Silvia has contributed greatly to the internationalization of the CSU campus and has enriched everyone's life that she has contact with. She is the true definition of the CSU motto, Create You. Congratulations to Silvia Bertran for receiving the Kiongozi Award for Outstanding Leadership. Silvia is unable to be here tonight, so I will be accepting this award on her behalf.
We have multiple scripts, and I'll just continue from my cell phone. So I have the honor of presenting the Lavender Alliance Community Award to Alexander Johns. And as I read his bio, if you would come up, and I'd like for you guys to take center stage so everybody can see you. We're hidden behind our interpreter. Come on over. Don't be afraid. You're in the light now. You're in the light. Alexander Johns is a sophomore at Columbus State University. Alexander has been involved in countless organizations on campus, including Pride Plus, the Society for Pagan and Witchcraft Exploration, and Presidential Envoys. He is very involved in Columbus State's LGBTQ+ community. He has fought for the rights of LGBTQIA+ on and off campus. This includes advocating for more gender-neutral bathrooms on campus and working with the Revolution Project. He also fosters community in his club, Pride Plus. It is a student organization that provides weekly community events for people in the LGBTQIA+ community. Overall, Alexander is a vibrant student. We've had interactions in the good way, When he interacts with the students on campus, he does so with joy and acceptance to any and all people. Congratulations, Alexander Johns, on receiving the Lavender Alliance Community Award. Our next award goes to the Outstanding Faculty Staff Award to Dr. Rania Hadhad. And again, I like for them to embrace everything that we say about them, so you guys just take it all in. Dr. Hadhad is the recipient that has been described as a mentor and faculty member here at CSU. Dr. Hadhad goes above and beyond in attending to the needs of students and peers anytime, any day, regardless if it's working day or her personal vacation. In addition to serving on many university committees, she serves as an outreach to new students and attracts industry contacts like Google to visit local areas to meet students. She is always mentoring several student research projects and research topics. Some of her mentored students have gone on to attend PhD programs or have earned credentials to now teach at CSU. Her contribution and enthusiasm for providing technology days has even extended to encouraging the youth at Muskogee County Schools to learn and pursue passions for computer science and robotics. Dr. Hadhad is one of a kind, and all of her contributions at Columbus State University and Muskogee County School District are appreciated. Because of your exceptional service, Dr. Hadhad, you are deserving of this award. Our W.D. Finney Award, Jarrell Hurst. A little bit about Jarrell. So our award recipient, Jarrell Hurst, has overcome many challenges on his own and has been very successful in his career path. Jarrell has taken what he has learned through those challenges and utilized his knowledge to help others in the same challenges or different ones. He has exhibited this by working with the computer science lab, helping students overcome their own challenges that were different from his own, but was able to use his experiences and challenges to help each student be successful. Over the past 4 years, Jarrell's confidence and advocating for each student to be successful have proved tremendous, not only in academics, but also in everyday life. It is because of his dedication to aiding students when they are in need that he receives this award. Congratulations on receiving the W.D. Finney Award, Jarrell. And now, the Women's Leadership Award. Taylor Parker. So as she's coming, when thinking about the Women's Leadership Award, the nominator of this award recipient had a lot of great things to say. The 2023 Women's Leadership Award is presented to Taylor Parker. Taylor is a motivated student that handles her task with exceptional effort. She is the president of several organizations within the Turner College of Business, including Beta Gamma Sigma, their premier business honor society. She helps create a sense of belonging among her peers and constantly tries to help provide advice and resources to help others. She spread awareness of opportunities that are available to women in the community as well as on campus. Taylor represents what it means to be a strong and motivated woman. Congratulations, Taylor, on receiving this award. You're welcome. So at this time, that completes our award nominations. Please, let's give all of our recipients a round of applause. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Ronald Williams, CSU's Chief of Staff, to introduce our fireside chat moderator and keynote speaker for the evening.
At this time, I would like to introduce our moderator for this session, Dr. Lanika Mussolini, and keynote speaker, Zonona Clayton. Dr. Mussolini has over 14 years of experience in DEI and also serves as the founder and president of a nonprofit that serves to empower women. The core values of inclusion, service, and integrity all work to continuously center equity in her daily living. As a champion of DEI, Dr. Mussolini is committed to continuing to pursue efforts that enhance and advance diversity, equity, and inclusion, and justice in higher education for inclusive learning and working environments. She currently serves as the director of the Office of Sponsored Programs here at Columbus State University. I now have the pleasure of introducing our keynote, Mrs. Zonona Clayton. And it is indeed an exceptional honor to introduce to the Columbus State University community and the Chattahoochee Valley region, Mrs. Clayton, who is an iconic civil rights leader and an author who has had an expansive career as a broadcasting executive. In 1952, Mrs. Clayton graduated from what was then Tennessee State Agricultural and Industrial College, now Tennessee State University, in Nashville, Tennessee. There, she earned her undergraduate degree with honors in music while minoring in education. While at TSU, she joined the first collegiate sorority for African American women, the Alpha Psi chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Mrs. Clayton's career began in the civil rights movement at the National Urban League in Chicago. There, she worked to uncover and investigate racial discrimination being committed against African Americans by employers. In 1965, at the encouragement of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Mrs. Coretta Scott King, Mrs. Clayton moved to Atlanta, Georgia. During the height of the civil rights movement, she worked for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, where she became involved in the work of Dr. King. When she began her television career in 1967, Mrs. Clayton became the first African American from the Southern United States to host a daily prime time talk show. The show would eventually be rebranded as the Zernona Clayton Show, and it was a regular feature on WAGA-TV, the CBS affiliate in Atlanta. Mrs. Clayton was employed at the Turner Broadcasting Corporation for nearly 30 years, where she served as a corporate executive. She joined the company in 1979 as a producer of documentary specials. Ultimately, in 1988, she was promoted to the corporate vice president for urban affairs with the Turner Broadcasting System. Mrs. Clayton retired from Turner Broadcasting in 1997, choosing to call the retirement a professional transition. Mrs. Clayton serves on the board of directors of the King Center for Nonviolent Social Change in Atlanta, and she has served on the board of review for the state of Georgia's Department of Labor. In 1991, she published an autobiography, I've Been Marching All the Time, a title which she indicates was inspired by Dr. King. The book focuses on her life and her views of the civil rights movement. She is the founder, president, and CEO of the Trumpet Awards Foundation and the creator of the foundation's Trumpet Awards. The Trumpet Awards is a prestigious event highlighting African American accomplishments and contributions. Initiated in 1993 by the Turner Broadcasting Corporation, the Trumpet Awards have been televised annually and distributed internationally to over 185 countries. Dedicated to promoting racial understanding, Mrs. Clayton has been a leader in civic projects and civil rights activities for decades. In 1966, she coordinated the activities of Atlanta's Black physicians in a project called Doctors Committee for Implementation, which resulted in the desegregation of all hospital facilities in Atlanta. Her persistent fight against prejudice and bigotry was never more apparent than in 1968, when the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan denounced the Klan and credited Mrs. Clayton's influence with his change. Mrs. Clayton has been the recipient of numerous prestigious awards to include, but are not limited to, the National Association of Minorities in Cable's highest award, the Mickey Leland Award, which honors the late United States Congressman, and the Distinguished Leadership Award and the Corporate Award from the National Association for Equal Opportunity in Higher Education. She's received honorary letter of doctorate degrees from Clark Atlanta University, Tennessee State University, and Alcorn State University. Recently, a school in Ghana was named in her honor, and earlier this month, appropriately so, during International Women's Month, an 8-foot bronze statue of the luminary Zernona Clayton was placed in downtown Atlanta, which cements her place as a broadcasting pioneer and civil rights activist. Mrs. Clayton, on a personal note, I have admired your work for decades. I've had the opportunity to hear you speak on several occasions, And as a fellow alumnus of Tennessee State University, I am honored to have you here with us this evening. Please join me, everyone, in welcoming my fellow Tennessee State University Tiger to Cougar Country here at Columbus State University, Mrs. Clayton and Dr. Mussolini, if you would come up on stage.
Let's give her another round of applause, please. This is so exciting, and just FYI, we did not plan to color coordinate. It just so happened to work out that way. Miss Clayton, thank you so much for accepting our invitation to be here on this evening. Looking forward to a rich and engaging discussion with you. To start off, what stirred up inside of you to make you want to be involved in the civil rights movement?
Well, first, let me thank you for the invitation and for all of you who are here tonight. I'm delighted. This is my first visit, and I was so impressed. I want to come back, okay? Thank you. Well, I'm not the kind of person who changes facts. So when I tell you something that I'm getting ready to share with you, it's exactly what happened. As a student at Tennessee State, my sister and I and our two boyfriends had gone out to an event. When the event was over, on the way back to the campus, we decided we wanted a hamburger. Each of us had money in our pockets and just a mere hunger for a snack before going into the dorm. We saw a sign that said hamburgers. We all got out of the car and went in and were greeted by a white man who had a butcher knife. It looked like it was 10 feet long. And he said this: "You niggers, get out of this store. You know you don't belong here." Of course, it scared us to death. We were shocked and surprised by the greeting, and we left. The words "you don't belong here" have haunted me for many years. Being a nigger was something you get in many places. And I don't hide that word when people say, "Don't use nigger anymore." I'm telling you exactly what happened, because here I am today, 31 or 2 years old, and the pain is still with me. The two things he said: "You niggers," and "you don't belong here." Well, I happen to have learned that later also, that often you get greeted by white people who say you don't belong here. And there's something inside of your system that once you find out that you do have a right here, you go to work to fight for the right to be here. I've been spending all these years now since that day to prove I belong here, and I'm an integral part of here, and I want my presence to be known. Thank you.
You absolutely belong. We all belong.
Yes.
So thank you for taking the time to dedicate your life to stand up to people who did not see you as an equal,
Right.
or people who created systemic barriers and tried to oppress your voice and your thoughts and your intellect. Thank you for
My
standing
pleasure.
tall.
Thank you.
When you consider your work with civil rights in the 60s and 70s, and you look at where civil rights are today in 2023, how would you rate or define the progress?
Oh, I think it's kind of easy to determine and to identify, but at the same time, you can see where we aren't. We're doing a pretty decent job of describing and demonstrating who we are and where we are. It's just that that's not the total picture. And during my life, I wanted my life to have some significance. My mother used to say all the time that there's a price you pay for the life you live. I've never forgotten that. I'm hoping that in these few years, and I've lied so much about my age until I've forgotten almost how old I really am, but I pretend like I'm young. But I proudly say, I think, because my travel companion gave a birthday party for me, and she said, we're going to celebrate your 90th birthday. And I said, 90? I said, I thought I was 31. Because it sounded like when someone asked me how old you are, and I said, oh, I just picked a number, because I thought age was just a number you pick. So I picked 31, and I stayed 31 for about 60 years, you know. And so now I think I have to ask her all the time, but I think I really am. The truth is, in a couple of months, they tell me, 93.
Wow.
But I go to my office every morning, and I'm there at 4 o'clock when I consider myself late. I get up in the mornings and realize I am she who is up. I consider that a good day. And I decide every morning when I do get up and realize I have my faculties and my energy that I'm going to make today count. And so it doesn't matter how old you are, it's what you do with the years you're here.
That is phenomenal. We should all get up every morning thinking that we're going to make today count.
Yes.
One of the things that I like to tell myself every morning is I'm going to learn something new today. That's my goal every day, is to learn something new. And as we learned earlier, that the Chattahoochee River flows all the way from Northeast Georgia down to the Gulf of Mexico.
Yes.
So I learned something new today.
Yeah.
I figured that out with you. So
And you
thank
taught it to me, now I know it.
Well, you are a beautiful 31-year-old.
Thank you.
Can you tell us about a time in your career where one of your accomplishments was the most rewarding or fulfilling for you?
Oh, that's a hard one because I've had so many good moments. But you know, I tell everybody that the first time you have a victory, there's something very stimulating about that. When you win once, you figure, oh, I'll try that again, or try something where you have a victory. And now, at my stage and age, I've had a lot of victories. I've realized that where there's a problem, if I can, I want to solve it. And I really want to do what Dr. King said. He said we can live together. There's no reason why we don't live together. Each of us came into this world where the stork came and dropped you somewhere. And then, from that point on, the world is yours. And so, which means we all came here the very same way. And we all do the very same thing, just like we all ate tonight, some more healthier than others. But I have learned that the victories make you, just spur you on to do more. When I moved to Atlanta, all Black doctors had to work only in the public hospital. They couldn't practice in any of those good hospitals that we have in our city. So if a woman or a person who happens to be African American wanted a better hospital for whatever preferences she had, they couldn't do it because their doctors couldn't practice. And I said, oh, we can do something about that. So I did a lot of research and found out there was one hospital, was white, was getting almost all of the federal funds. And I said, oh, that comes from Washington. That comes from the president. Now, I was working with Dr. Martin Luther King, and he liked President Lyndon Johnson, and Lyndon Johnson, and he had a very good relationship. So I wrote him a letter and just said, Dr. King said, you're a pretty nice guy, so maybe you'll listen to my story. And I told him how terrible it was that the government was fostering prejudice. And that was just absolutely unacceptable for me. And told him how women who were pregnant had to go like on Wednesdays because there was Black Day. Now, I've never had a baby, but I understand they don't come when you want them. They come when they get ready. And so it may not be Wednesday that the black child was due. And I just said, that's an inhumane way to treat people. And I wrote him a nice letter and said, you know, Dr. King would endorse this letter if he saw it. I didn't share it with Dr. King. I was just working with the doctors trying to get them equity in the city. And guess what? The president didn't even answer my letter. I was offended now really more because Dr. King said he was a nice guy. Who would not answer the letter? But who wants to foster prejudice? Nobody wants to admit it. So I said to my team, we need to go to Washington. Now listen, ladies and gentlemen, I know you can't walk into the White House. I know you just can't pick up the phone and talk to the president. I know that. But it didn't keep me from trying. So I went to Washington, took my delegation with me, and we were on television, had a big presentation, and just charmed the whole city. It was not a city, you know, Washington, D.C. And I got a call from the White House, and we were getting ready to go to dinner because I said we need to go see the president, but I didn't really think we were going to do it. I knew I was going to try. So I called up the White House and said we were the black doctors from Atlanta, and we want to see the president because 2 or 3 things now are wrong with the president. They're fostering prejudice. He's a good friend of Dr. King's who does not want separation, and he's supposed to be the good guy, just doesn't fit. So explain to me what the problem is. Well, you can imagine how surprised I was when the White House operator called me back at the hotel. We were going to go out to dinner. And she said, Ms. Clayton, this is she, and said, how many are in your delegation? And I told her. She said, can you be over at the White House in 20 minutes? And I said, yes, but she didn't know we could be there in 5 minutes. You know, we could invite her to the White House. And so my thinking now, because I have some intelligence that the president doesn't answer just because you wrote him a letter. So now I'm thinking one of his aides will meet us. We walked into a room, escorted to a room. It was an empty room, and my doctors with me, I had 6 black doctors with me, and they were looking all around and touching all the stuff. I said, don't touch anything. Don't steal anything. I said, because they got cameras in this place, I'm sure, and we want to look like thieves. We're here for a major purpose. I didn't know we were being recorded. But, you know, President Johnson had a very distinctive voice. So when I heard this voice coming down, well, first in man, who was one of the staff persons, said, Ms. Clayton, well, I was the only woman, so it was easy to identify me. And he said, the president will see you shortly. And he left. And then we heard this voice that's so familiar to everybody. It was President Johnson's voice coming down the hall. And as soon as he entered the room, he fell out laughing. He said, so you're the one who wrote the letter talking about Dr. King. I was fostering prejudice. And I said, well, I have to admit, I'm the one. And the story's too long to tell you, but let me just tell you this. After you heard our plea, he said, well, let me check further into this and I'll get back to you. It wasn't maybe not 14 days later that the President of the United States, now keep this in mind. I was working for the black doctors in Atlanta. That's where I lived, and that's a familiar. We found out it happened in some other cities, but I was concentrated on our city. The president of the United States made an announcement. He said, as of today, all hospitals in the United States are now desegregated. All the hospitals. Now, there's something special about a victory. When you win once, it's a stimulus. You'll try something else. So the message to that is, if you find something wrong, try to right it. I think if we would do as Dr. King preached all the time, just take a moment to know your neighbor. Know people who don't look like you. I think my broadest learning has been the fact that I have a lot of interracial friends, and I've learned a lot about their culture, their lifestyle, their likes, and it's so invigorating. You know, to know somebody, there's nothing wrong with wanting to know your neighbor. And they built a statue of me the other day, and they asked me at the press conference, what am I going to do next? I said, I'm going to build 5 houses. I said, I want to build a white, a black, Native American, and I named all the races. I want to build 5 major nations. The houses are going to be next door to each other. It's going to be my own village, Zernona Clayton's village, where I'm going to prove in Dr. King's absence, because he can no longer speak to this, but he wanted us to learn how to live together. And now I'm going to take up that mantle. And it was very interesting. After I announced it, I got people volunteer. Now I'm going to build those houses, and I want you all here to come visit me in my village, where people can live together, work together, and be happy together. We're going to prove it some kind of way. So that's my goal.
Absolutely. That is the dream. So you've spoken about your life of influence. We heard during your introduction that you were able to convince a grand dragon of the KKK to change their views about people of color. How did you do that, and how did it make you feel?
Oh, it made me feel wonderful. The mayor of the city, Atlanta got one of those model cities programs. You all know, one of those governmental programs years ago. And the purpose was to take 5 distinct and different neighborhoods and see if the government could make a change by using some of the tactics of people in these neighborhoods. I think everybody's familiar with the Model Cities program. And he asked me to serve as the leader of the group. That is to take all 5 cities and see how we could find out what the problems are in each community. So it's interesting, but and so it sounded so challenging, because he said, you work well with different people, and so I'd like to see you head the program for us. It was a temporary program. And I agreed. He said, of course, now there's one problem. He said, one of the communities is mainly majority Ku Klux Klansmen. And one of the men is leader of that community, so he'll be working with you regularly. Is that going to be a problem? I said, no. And I said, I've never seen a Klansman. All the pictures I've seen of Klansmen, they all got white sheets on, and all, covered up from head to toe with white sheets. So I don't know what they look like anyway. So it won't matter to me who it is. Well, it turned out that he wasn't. I was on television at the time, and there were several of the people who, recognized me from television. And so when we had the opening reception, they'd come and handshake and welcome Miss Clayton, welcome Miss Clayton. But this one man, didn't give me a handshake. He gave me some fingertips. I said, oh, maybe this is he. And it turned out I was right. Well, Mr. Craig came to my office the next day to meet me more intimately and thoroughly. And he asked me a dumb question because I decided that if I do battle with him, I'm not going to win this race. And he said, Miss Clayton, he said, how many Negroes own their own homes in Detroit, Michigan? And I said, well, I think you're trying to say Negroes, because at the time that's what we would refer to. So it's not what you said, it's Negroes. Will you repeat after me? Negroes. And I said, the answer to the question is, I don't know. I don't know many people who live in Detroit, so I don't know whether they own their homes or not. He said, well, how many Negroes? I said, just a minute. So I corrected him again. And how many in South Mississippi, in the South and Mississippi, own their own homes? I said, I don't know. He was making a point that all the Negroes had gone north to have a better life, and the ones who are now still living in the South, there are more homeowners here than there are over there. And he said, oh. And I said, do you go to church? And he said, yes. And I said, what's your denomination? And he said, he's Baptist. I said, oh, so am I. He said, as a matter of fact, I'm deacon in my church. I said, you're kidding. I said, because in my church, the deacon is pretty well respected. And he said, well, I'm chairman of the deacon board. I said, you're kidding. You can't be the chairman of the deacon board, standing in front of the congregation, and you're a Ku Kluxer? And he laughed and thought it was funny. And every Friday, he brought his 2 children to see me, just to say hello. And they're putting on those white capes, going out to do bodily harm. So one day, the story is too long to tell you all the details, but this particular night I said to him, Mr. Craig, would you do me a favor, please? Will you, when you go home, will you close the bathroom door? That's where probably everybody has the most private part in their homes. And I want you to look in the mirror and ask yourself this question. As a deacon standing before this congregation, being a member of the Ku Klux Klan, and as a father, I'm taking my children out to do bodily harm. They were 7 and 12. And as a gentleman, am I practicing the right thing? Ask yourself this way. You don't have to tell me your answer. Well, the story, as I said, is too long. One Saturday, I went out shopping and I came home. I live on a quiet street, so I was shocked when I turned into my street and saw television cameras and police all in front of what looked like my house. And I said, oh, I thought I'd been burglarized. You know, that's what happens when you live in a black neighborhood. You think you're burglarized all the time. But what happened is they were there to announce to me, they were waiting for me to come home, that Calvin Craig, the noted, he was known all over the country, had done a television announcement and announced that after all these years, he's now coming out of the Klan, and credited a black woman who changed his negative attitude, and I was that black woman. Well, the story went all over the world, and we got invitations all over the world. And I got dates from white men who would ask to take me out. And I said, well, I don't know you, so I don't go out with men I don't know. Didn't say anything about his race. It's just that I don't go with any man I don't know. And he said, well, I have to meet you. And I said, well, what's so compelling? He said, I've known Calvin Craig for 14 years. I've never heard him say anything complimentary about a black person. And he sings your praises every time we talk. And so he changed without telling me he was going to change. It wasn't until they had that press conference that he told them that I was responsible. But I kept talking to him, not showing anger, because it does anger you, though, when someone sits up in your face and tells you your people are lazy and all the kind of stereotypical things you hear. And I would have to refute all of that and show him the antithesis of his examples. And he finally got the message, and that's why he got out. And the story has just gone way, a big story in my life. I learned now that, he was responsible for seeing that I got an invitation for an event, or when he died, his wife called me to tell me he had passed away that night. And, I said, I'm so sorry, and I wish I could do something. She said, you can. I said, what's that? She said, will you come and have dinner with me and let me tell you how many times he talked favorably about you. It shocked our whole family, the way the man changed his whole demeanor and attitude, and said that Miss Clayton is a fine woman every day at his dinner table. I didn't know any of this until his wife now had told me that. But there's something very piercing about wanting to do good, want to do the right thing, want everybody to have a happy, decent, wonderful life. Everybody's entitled to a decent life and equal opportunity. And I've spent all these years trying to do that.
Thank you. That is amazing. Phenomenal. So we also heard that you spend a great deal of your career with Turner Broadcasting. Why was it important for you to create a path for African Americans and people of color to be on television? And what struggles did you face or barriers did you encounter in getting this done successfully?
Thank you for that. I was kind of tired of hearing all the negative stories about Black people and wanting so much and so badly to do what Dr. King said. How do we come together as a people? How can we dispel the nation? How can we get people to recognize that each of us, everybody, has a right to the promise of America, everybody. And so it was very hard to keep hearing this, and there's not much you could do about it. But Dr. King used to say that he felt that he didn't believe that all white people hated us. He felt that some white people hated us because they just didn't know us, that if they knew us, there would probably be less hatred. For instance, how could we get along in our society without the traffic light? We can't. And very few people know that the traffic light was designed and built by a Black man who didn't do it for himself, for his family and his friends. Well, I need not tell you how important the traffic light is. So I just said, Dr. King said, if white America knew how much we were contributing, maybe there'd be less hatred. And I was surprised to know how many white people did feel like we were all lazy. as the Grand Dragon said, all Black people are lazy. So I asked my boss, Ted Turner, if I could do a series on the contributions of African Americans, that maybe it would dispel some of this myth. And so I proved myself right and everybody right, because with my program, the Trumpet Awards, we were trumpeting the talents and the significance of Black Americans in our country. And the Black man who created blood, but you could salvage and keep blood. There was a time that people died because there wasn't enough blood on the shelf. But because of him, and I pointed out in my documentaries that the Black people didn't make discoveries and contributions for all of us. They did it without selfishness. The man who, blood plasma, I was trying to think of, plasma, you couldn't preserve the blood. This man had created, from Chicago, had created how the ways in which you could conserve blood, which means that anytime anybody got sick and needed blood or transfusion, it would be on the shelves. He went to a conference in Miami. On the way back home to Chicago, they were in an accident. And he was severely injured, and the ambulance came to retrieve the people and found out he was Black, and they wouldn't give him blood, and he died. Well, we had stories like that all the time, the contributions of Black Americans without regard to, it was an unselfish talent. I'll use one woman, there were several who called, but one mother called me one day to say that she had two little girls. First, she said, my mother, my loving mother and my loving father taught me that all Black people are lazy. All of them. That all Black men would stand in line to get a government check than get a paycheck. All Black women would rather have a baby than have a job. She grew up hating every Black person she saw, hating them. She said, as a result of my program, we were showing contributions, like I just mentioned, there were several. She said, I've learned a lot, and I'm so embarrassed, and I feel so guilty, because I thought my mother and father had taught me the right thing, only to find out that that's not true. She said, I've learned through your program that there are a lot of good Black people. Everybody's not lazy and all the kind of things her parents had taught her. She said, I have two little girls. One is 3 and one is 5. I do not want them to grow up in the same ignorance I have grown up in. So send them those tapes, I don't care what they call it, so that we can learn about the contributions of Black people. And she later wrote me a letter to say they had done very well. So the show just was magnificent. Went all over the world. We had 32 countries. We were broadcast in every week. Mm-hmm.
That's great. Now, you mentioned the Trumpet Awards. Congratulations on celebrating over 3 decades of the Trumpet Awards.
Yes.
3 decades, y'all. That's a lot. So thank you for bringing the contributions of African Americans and people of color to the forefront so that the world can see who we are and what we stand for and why it's important to be inclusive and diverse in every space of our lives. Thank you for that. Your most recent award show, Teresa the Songbird gave a speech, and she talked about the power and the beauty of Blackness. And it was such a phenomenal speech. I don't know if you've seen it online, but it is viral. If you hadn't seen it, Google it. It's Teresa the Songbird at the Trumpet Awards, 2023 Trumpet Awards. You have to go out and listen to her speech. It is powerful. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We really appreciate your advocacy work that you've done throughout the years. They mentioned earlier about you having a statue that was dedicated to you recently. Can you tell us about that and what that meant to you?
Oh, proudly, I can tell you that. I was trying to avoid, I've been blessed bountifully by a good Lord. I've never, ever been sick in my life, my whole life. Might have had some colds when I was a kid. Thank you. But my friends were telling me that they were planning to clone me, anybody who could live this long and not be sick. But messed up my record a few weeks ago because I got COVID the first time, and I avoided it. I used every measure the doctors would tell you, wear your mask, do this, take all those shots. I did everything. And I was up and gone every day, avoiding the illness. And then I got it. But it was 3 weeks before, what I was going to say is, I then was put in some very strict rules. Like I said, that I used to go to my office. Well, I still do. Every morning, 4 o'clock, I'm in my office. I drive down the expressway like I'm late. And I realized, well, I'm the boss, so why am I running, But I had a man call me and said, Miss Clayton, there's a couple who wants to meet you. And I said, well, I'm not seeing visitors right now. I said, under some very extreme circumstances, I will make provisions if you say it's important. So I said, but they got to come to my office. Meet me at 4:30. That's my limit. After 4:30, other people come, but by going at 4, only I and the security guards are in the building. So I've avoided that awful disease and germ, I guess it is. And they came one morning at 5 minutes after 4, and I said, this must be an important visit. I didn't know who they were, a man and his wife. And they came to tell me that they had been watching me, reading about me, hearing about me, and they thought I'd done so many wonderful things, helping to bring race relations to a head, and cited things that they thought were important to other people who are also living amongst us. And the man happens to be from Alabama. And, fighting civil rights, and we had such a rough time in the state of Alabama when Dr. King was fighting, that they just, you figure, Alabama, no. But they came to say, we've come to make an offer to you. Said, we have observed all and read about your life, and we've decided that we want to take our money and make you live even after you're dead and gone. I said, I might be dead, but I'm not going nowhere, But they said, this is what we think, that the people could pattern the good part of your life, and maybe we can have this great world, and as white people, that's the contribution we want to make, that we want to build a stature and have you preaching the message even after you're gone. Well, I ended up crying because I'd never had an offer like that. I would tell everybody, if somebody asks you, I want to ask you questions, that I want to do something for you, I want to give you a gift, and whatever you want, I don't care what it costs, you can have it. What would you do? What would you name? How many people say, build me a statue? I mean, nobody says that. And I said, well, I don't know. He said, well, we want to build a statue. And I said, you're kidding. Well, he wasn't kidding. So the man from Alabama and his wife, who's from a Latino country, decided they want to do it. And they led the movement. And just like last week or two, when I worked for Dr. King, Dr. King and I were thrown out of a restaurant because of racism. The boss didn't want us there. And we were there with some white friends, and they threw us out. And the city council named a street in my name, and then a little park. Well, they decided that they'd build the statue in the area. But we researched the area and found out that the white man, who was the first white settler in Atlanta, said, I'm going to build me a city. And I'm going to start right here and have my city grow. And I'm going to call this the heart of the city. This will be my tent, and I'm going to watch my city grow. So guess what? A couple of weeks ago, I then was now perched on a statue 2 blocks from where they threw me out because we had blacks and whites eating together. On the street, the city council name is Zernona Clayton Way. In a park, there's now Zernona Clayton's Park. And there I am, the heart of the city. That's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive.
That is very impressive.
Yes.
Congratulations again. Following with our theme of being plugged into DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, what are your thoughts on how we can continue to develop?
Oh, I think we've made it the hardest thing. It's not hard. I wish I could convince, but if you got a white friend and you're black and vice versa, you'll find out they know some foods that you've never heard of. My neighbors in Chicago were Jewish, and I never heard of gefilte fish. Never heard of it. And they had all that, funny food, not funny foods. I mean, there were foods I'd never heard of. We know black-eyed peas and greens and stuff, but I didn't know about the culture. And they became I was so fascinated by the Jewish culture. I ended up with the synagogue. I mean, I learned a lot about their lifestyle and their culture. And it's wonderful when you learn something you didn't know. And who wants to be ignorant all the life? Learn something every day from wherever you can learn it. So it's broadening to know other people. So why not? So I'm going to keep on till I build my village of everybody living together wherever you are, regardless of your race, color, or creed. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. I think that is the ultimate key to us being more inclusive, more accepting of others, is to learn about everybody's differences, become culturally competent, accept people for who they are, learn about different cultures and, different religions and people's backgrounds. And that way we're more educated and we can also share our culture in return. And that makes us a better human race, I think. What do you want your legacy to be defined as? You've gone through this path of being an influencer. You've been an advocate. You fought in civil rights. You worked behind the scenes to make sure that the marches went forward. And you've just been very instrumental in moving the needle forward. What do you want your legacy to be?
I did as much as I could, as long as I could, as often as I could.
That's beautiful. And I have one more question and we will wrap it up. Utilizing the lens of higher education, what would be some takeaways that you have for students as they embark off into the world?
Oh, I think students have a glorious opportunity today because we have such a diverse society. And well, tonight I was just so encouraged to see this kind of audience. This encourages me, and I didn't see nobody fail to eat because we got some black person at your table. Everybody here is mixed up tonight, and I saw everybody eating. Everybody ate the same thing. And I don't see nobody sick. I don't see nobody go out. We look like we just like we were when you started out tonight, having dinner together, and it works. Just live life with ease and joy, and thank the good Lord you're still here.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing all of your rich experience with us. At this time, I will ask Dr. Williams and Janae Roberts to come to the stage for a special presentation.
So on behalf of the university community, Mrs. Clayton, we'd just like to give you a small token of our appreciation for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Thank the Lord. Thank each of you for allowing me to be here tonight. Thank you.
Yes, another round of applause for Mrs. Ernona Clayton. Before we go, I want to leave you all with one final clip from our campus community. If we could roll that clip.
Using sort of an open door policy, not literally, but also figuratively speaking in the classroom or in the work with other colleagues, by making sure that they know that their opinion, their contribution is welcome. And the way that I do that is by listening, by reflecting to what I've heard, by making sure that they feel heard as well. And those strategies typically work really well just in general conversations, but especially the ones that are difficult to have.
That's simple. Be nice. I like to, in Davidson, we have the Davidson Lounge, and that's where a lot of different type of students go and go have fun and go vibe and go chill. And so I like to speak and say hi and kind of learn names so that when I see them again around campus, whether that be in the CAF or in Subway or at the clock tower or at an event, I can always speak because we've built that kind of relationship. And then you never know when speaking to, I'm not saying that type of person, but another type of person that's not in the same group as you, it kind of opens the doors to let other people, oh, what's cool about them? What's interesting about them? And kind of merging the two worlds together. So simply being nice, having a smiling face and introducing yourself and never being ashamed of your differences because they make you unique.
I think validating people's experience is the number one thing when it comes to welcoming other ethnicities and races within friend groups and classrooms and stuff like that. I think a lot of people feel unheard or unwelcome when people don't validate their experiences and they feel like dismissed. So I think it's really important when you're welcoming someone to validate their experiences.
Individually, I do think that awareness is a really important thing. Oftentimes when we talk about diversity and when we talk about just people from different cultures and different backgrounds, there's a difference between saying we're a diverse group and actually knowing what that includes, what that means. It means being aware of the actual individuals that are around you. So if you have someone from a different culture, it means bothering to get to know that culture, not just saying, oh, this person's from a different culture. It means actually being aware, taking the time, getting to know, in whatever manner that looks like, getting to know details and getting to know things that will enable you to be a respectful individual that allows people to feel comfortable in your space. And then you're also engaging with them, you're learning, you're exposing yourself to different things. So the first part for me as an individual, and I think for anybody, should really be just engaging in awareness.
You can support other people by trying to find out how you have similarities. So work with the similarities instead of trying to see how you are different, and then welcome them by trying to help them to see that we're both together.
Special thank you to everyone for joining us this evening and for your participation in this exceptional event. Please remember that tomorrow is the Diversity Conference. We have here with us tonight Ms. Joanne Hill, who will be our keynote speaker tomorrow. You don't want to miss out on all of the educational opportunities happening from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. in the Cunningham Center. In your programs, we have the dynamic speakers that have been lined up for you. Special thank you to CSU President Dr. John Fuchco, our Provost Pat McHenry, and Dr. Gina Sheeks, our Vice President for Student Services, for their outstanding leadership and foresight in diversity here at CSU. Thanks to Diversity Programs and Services for organizing tonight's wonderful dinner and awards program, as well as tomorrow's conference. Make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter at CSU_diversity. If you took a picture or you take one, tag us at hashtag 2023 Legacy. I think we removed the celebration, so 2023 Legacy. And finally, a very special thank you to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, the Celebrating Diversity Subcommittee, Student Life and Development and Diversity Programs and Services, for without the collective work of all of these groups, none of this would have been possible. Please don't forget to complete the QR code that's located on your table. Good night, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.